$54 billion. That's not a typo. That's the number that just vanished from NVIDIA's future in less than 48 hours. January 7th, 2026, a directive goes out across China. ByteDance, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, every major Chinese AI company receives the same order. Halt all purchases of NVIDIA's H200 chips. Immediately. We're not talking about a delay. We're not talking about negotiations. We're talking about 2 million chips worth $54 billion that were supposed to ship to China this year. Gone. And right now, at NVIDIA headquarters in Santa Clara, Jensen Huang is facing the nightmare he's been preparing for since 2022. Because this isn't just about money. This is about China making a choice that could reshape the entire AI industry overnight. But here's what nobody's asking. Why now? Why these chips? And why is Jensen already scrambling to fire up production lines that were supposed to be shut down? Because what happened 48 hours ago, it's just the beginning. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why the next 30 days will determine whether NVIDIA remains the king of AI or becomes another casualty in the biggest tech war in history. Let me paint you a picture of just how catastrophic this moment is for Jensen Huang. In 2023, NVIDIA controlled 95% of China's advanced AI chip market. 95%! China represented between 20 to 25% of NVIDIA's entire data center revenue. That's the division that made NVIDIA the most valuable company on planet Earth. But by October 2025, Jensen stood on stage and admitted something shocking. We went from 95% market share to zero. Zero. The U.S. government had systematically blocked NVIDIA from selling its best chips to China. First the A100, then the H100. NVIDIA tried to work around it by creating downgraded versions, the H20 chips, specifically for China. Those got blocked too. $4.5 billion in inventory. Worthless. Just sitting in warehouses. But then something unexpected happened. December 2025, the Trump administration announces they'll allow NVIDIA to sell the H200 to China. Not the nerfed version, the real H200, 6 times more powerful than what China had access to before. The catch? The U.S. government takes 25% of every sale, and Chinese companies have to pay 100% upfront. Non-refundable. It's basically a ransom, but Chinese companies were desperate. ByteDance alone planned to spend $14 billion on H200 chips in 2026. Alibaba wanted $200,000. ByteDance wanted another $200,000. Tencent, Baidu, all the giants. Added up, over 2 million chips, $54 billion in orders. For NVIDIA, this was salvation. This was the money that would prove China still needed them. This was Jensen's redemption arc. And then, January 7th happened. One directive from Beijing and $54 billion evaporated. So what actually happened behind closed doors in Beijing? Here's what we know. On January 7th, 2026, China's top officials sent out a directive to its biggest AI companies. The message was clear. Stop ordering NVIDIA's H200 chips. Not permanently, not officially, just pause. Wait for further instructions. Why? Because China was facing an impossible choice, and they knew it. On one hand, you have Chinese AI companies begging for H200 chips. Why? Because Huawei's domestic alternative, the Ascend 910C, only delivers 60% of the H100's performance. And the H200 is better than the H100. Chinese AI companies know if they use inferior chips, they fall further behind OpenAI, Google, and every American AI lab. The Ascend 910C uses older 7-nanometer technology. It's basically two chips duct-taped together. It consumes way more power. It has manufacturing problems. Only 30% of the chips coming off the production line even work. But here's the other hand. Every dollar spent on Nvidia is a dollar not building China's domestic chip industry. Every H200 purchase is an admission that China cannot compete technologically. It's a national pride issue. It's a strategic vulnerability. And President Xi has been crystal clear. China must achieve technological independence. Made in China 2025? That's not a slogan. That's an order. So, Chinese officials called emergency meetings. They gathered executives from Alibaba, ByteDance, Tencent, and they asked them point blank, how many H200s do you actually need? The answer terrified Beijing, because every single company said the same thing. As many as we can get. They were willing to pay the 25% U.S. tax. They were willing to pay 100% upfront. They were willing to do anything to get these chips. And that's when Beijing realized if they allow this, Chinese companies will spend tens of billions on American chips. And Huawei, the domestic champion, it loses. China's semiconductor independence plan, it collapses. So they hit pause. Not a ban, not a block. A pause while they figure out what to do. Now, here's where this gets interesting. Because this pause, it creates winners and losers you wouldn't expect. Let's start with the obvious loser, Nvidia. $54 billion in potential revenue, just frozen. Jensen Huang spent 3 years trying to get back into China. He created custom chips, he negotiated with governments, he accepted a 25% tax, and just when he thought he'd won, Beijing says, not so fast. But here's the twist. Nvidia not panicking as much as you'd think. Why? Because Jensen expected this. At CES 2026, literally days after the pause, Jensen walked on stage and said demand is going through the roof and that Nvidia has $500 billion in orders over the next 2 years. He's already pivoting to India, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Europe, countries that are desperate for AI chips and won't play geopolitical games. So who's really losing? Chinese AI companies. They're the ones stuck in the middle. ByteDance is burning through 50 trillion tokens per day on its Dubao AI chatbot. That requires massive computing power. TikTok's recommendation engine? That's an AI inference monster. They need cutting-edge chips to compete globally. And right now, they're being told, use Huawei's chips. But Huawei's chips can't handle it, not at scale, not reliably. So, what are they doing? They're cheating. Multiple reports confirm Chinese companies are renting cloud computing power from data centers in Japan, Singapore, and other countries to access Nvidia chips indirectly. Tencent is reportedly accessing Blackwell chips, which are banned in China, through a data center in Osaka, Japan. They're not buying the chips, they're just renting time on them. It's the ultimate loophole. Now, who's winning? Huawei, obviously. The pause gives them time to improve the Ascend 910C, time to prepare the 910D, which is supposedly even better, time to lock in Chinese customers who have no other choice. Huawei is shipping an estimated 700,000 to 1 million Ascend chips in 2026. That's not Nvidia numbers, but it's real money. AMD might also win. While Nvidia's blocked, AMD is quietly negotiating its own licenses to sell MI400 series chips to China. If Nvidia stays blocked, AMD could capture billions in revenue. And the smugglers, they're definitely winning. Black market Nvidia chips are already flowing into China through shell companies and intermediaries. Remember when Huawei got caught with 2.9 million TSMC manufactured chips despite sanctions? Yeah, that doesn't just stop.
All right, here's what you need to understand about the next 30 days. This pause, it's temporary. China can't keep it in place forever because here's the brutal truth. Chinese AI companies are already months behind American AI labs. Every day they don't get H200s is another day OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google pull further ahead. So Beijing has three options. Option 1, they approve H200 imports with conditions. Maybe they say, for every one H200 you buy, you must buy two Ascend 910Cs. It's a compromise. Nvidia gets some revenue, Huawei gets support, Chinese AI companies get the chips they need. Option 2, they keep the ban in place and go all in on domestic chips. This is the nationalist option. It sends a message, we don't need America, but it cripples Chinese AI companies in the short term, and it risks losing the global AI race permanently. Option 3, they say they're banning H200s, but quietly allow backdoor purchases through third countries. Chinese companies keep renting cloud compute in Japan and Singapore. Smuggling continues. Everyone pretends the ban is working, but in reality, chips flow anyway. My prediction? It's option 1, with heavy conditions. Because China can't afford to lose the AI race, and right now, they are losing. DeepSeek, China's best AI model, is impressive, but it was trained on smuggled Nvidia chips. Dabao, ByteDance's chatbot, is growing fast, but it needs more computing power, not less. Beijing knows this, which means in the next 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to see an announcement. Probably not a press release, probably not a public statement, just purchase orders start flowing again. Quietly. Jensen Huang himself said it at CES. We're not expecting any press releases or large declarations, it's just going to be purchase orders. He's already preparing for it. Nvidia is reportedly in talks with TSMC to ramp up H200 production. Even though they were supposed to be phasing it out for Blackwell, they're expecting the floodgates to open.
But here's what nobody is talking about. This entire crisis, it's not really about chips. It's about control. The country that controls AI infrastructure controls the future economy. Autonomous vehicles, smart cities, military simulations, financial systems, healthcare. Everything runs on AI, and AI runs on chips. Right now, Nvidia controls the chips, which means America controls AI infrastructure. Even if Chinese companies buy H200s, they're still dependent on American technology. That's exactly what Beijing is trying to avoid. So this pause, it's not just about protecting Huawei. It's about China asking itself, can we afford to be dependent on America for the most important technology of the 21st century? And the answer is no. Which means this $54 billion freeze, it's not the end of the story, it's the beginning of a much longer war, a war where the battlefield is semiconductor fabs, cloud data centers, and the training runs of AI models you'll use tomorrow. Jensen Huang isn't panicking because of $54 billion. He's panicking because he knows this is just the first move in a game that will define the next decade. And if you think this was dramatic, just wait until you see what happens when Blackwell and Rubin chips are ready. Because China won't stop trying to buy them, and America won't stop trying to block them. This is the chip war, and it's only getting started.